Well, I am willing to get a little started. I think there were a few other folks that were registered, but it wouldn't be uh, a virtual event without a few folks not being able to make it, right? Uh, so is there anybody else that might like to like share intentions before we get started? Um, how far are you in developing a mission statement for either yourself or for your creative or business endeavor?
I guess I can go. We haven't really, I guess Tim is leaving, but he would probably have our business mission statement. Tim, do you have anything to say about our business mission statement?
Oh, I mean, just to grow our fan base.
Can you hear him?
Grow our fan base.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's just as we talked about earlier, just to get on the radar of more promoters and venues, to open the door for us to either book our own shows or add us to national acts that come through.
So
cool.
Grow your fan. Yeah, thank you, Tim. It sounds like growing your fan base and maybe feeling like you have a little more control over the trajectory.
Yeah.
Welcome, Cynthia. We're just getting started. We were kind of going around to talk about some intentions. If you already happen to have a mission statement developed for yourself or for your creative endeavor, for your business endeavor.
I'm sorry, Daniel. I'm just coming. You said, was your question, do I have one for myself?
Yes. If there's anything you'd like to share, or if you've already developed a whole thing, bits and pieces.
Probably bits and pieces for me.
Okay. And any other intentions, like things that you hope to kind of get as a result of being here?
I don't know if it's this chapter, Daniel, but just in general, looking forward to hearing your insights on kind of building an entire career out of music, not as something maybe that's part-time or, in that way, like some insight that you have from living that.
Sure. Yeah, my claim to fame is not 100,000 listeners on Spotify or a national, a nationally promoted tour, with Ticketmaster or, being on the Tonight Show or anything that that I'd say I'd kind of would have liked to have seen from artistic endeavors. It's kind of the presentation that's out there of, hey, if you make good music, here's where you can be. And I think I think that contrast between our perception of what success is from a public perspective versus what we're experiencing emotionally, tangibly in our physical day-to-day lives, that can be one of the biggest burdens for a musician, because there's like a perception of the way that you should appear, as opposed to being completely satisfied with who you are and your mission and your direction. And I certainly hope that that this will help get things going. I'm going to go ahead and roll through, since we've got most everybody here and we're already 8 minutes in. I really value your time and appreciate you being on this call. I don't want to stay inside of like presentation mode for the whole bit, so feel free to kind of ping me and let me know if there's a spot that you feel we want to spend a little bit more time on. I think if we get through kind of the initial presentation, there'll be some time to really kind of dive in. And if you have your bits and pieces, even if it's just notes on a piece of paper or like a letter you wrote yourself at some point, we might be able to kind of get through some of that and help one-on-one get a little bit more development. And I think other people will appreciate seeing your perspective based on your industry or your experience, or what you are personally seeking for yourself out of your personal mission statement and your business mission statement. So without further ado, I'll share my screen because I'm super fancy and I've got myself a Google slideshow. Let's see, there's a way to present it. There we are. I made this fancy graphic all by myself. Can't you tell? but this looks better than 3 keys. I like the keyholes concept actually because it did fit inside of my trifecta experience here. We are on developing your purpose, which is loosely related to chapter 1 of my book. Obviously, there's some experiences there in reading and having time to digest it that's different from the class experience. And part of what I'm hoping to be able to provide in this experience is the fact that people learn from different places and at different times. And there's things that we absorb, and then 6 months go by, and somebody else says something, and it triggers something that lets us go back and relive that thought and put it into a more of a cohesive place. And that's actually a really good example of how this book has come together. So thank you for coming to the class. It's over now. This is the end. I know that you know in your hearts that this is not true, but I thought it would be silly to start this way. This is one of the mindsets or the methodologies for being able to develop your future endeavor in the way that you want, that journey, that destination to be there for you. And so I always am a big fan of start with why. I think that knowing why you're beginning your journey, why your destination is the place where you want to be, I think that those things start to go hand in hand, or at least in my experience, they went hand in hand. So the way that I like to advise people that I do consulting with about this stage of development is with the notion of a lifetime achievement award. The idea that if we look into the future and not looking at something that could, if you just want to say get on the Tonight Show, that's a goal, right? But you're not going to win a lifetime achievement award for being on the Tonight Show. So if you want to, if you want to create a piece of code, you most likely won't get a lifetime achievement award for a single piece of code. I look at it as a career-driven perspective, that there has to be a time invested in the space that you want to pursue, and you'll build upon that. And I find that Viktor Frankl, who is a neurologist, psychiatrist, philosopher, and author, I find that this was also true, that even in trying to say, like, I'm interested in focusing on the world from a musical perspective, but I'm not even sure if my Lifetime Achievement Award would necessarily be in music. Now, how these worlds come together is part of why we develop the mission statements, in order to try to guide where we take the things that we're excited about, that we're interested in, feel confident about sharing with others, and being able to work towards that final victory using those skills. So beginning at the end with your Lifetime Achievement Award, and why that's important for you, why that is absolutely essential, necessary, why must this be your legacy? Why do you exist? What is your purpose? Then why are we here? This is, of course, the lifelong question, and it is something that we're still going to continue to be detecting, even if we don't do it, completely as part of this class, or from some other book that you're reading to gain perspective, or a YouTube video that you watch for inspiration. We're trying to discover, using principles, planning, and procedure, how to be able to get you in the direction of your Lifetime Achievement Award. So I try to live through these principles, and I try to teach through these principles of discipline, enthusiasm, and vulnerability. I won't read the definitions because they're there, you can see them. But I think that through these 3 things, that this is what is going to create the consistency that we need in order to provide a career-driven effort towards our Lifetime Achievement Award. So planning with Dev, using principles of discipline, enthusiasm, and vulnerability to be able to go through each one of these evaluations, if you will, of your personal and your creative endeavor, your technical endeavor, towards your Lifetime Achievement Award. The dev principles can be applied as part of educating yourself and using your principles as a way of why do I need to continue my education in this direction? In brainstorming, of outlining, in scheduling, how am I going to use the principles of dev in order to prioritize what appears on my calendar first? In accounting, how I spend my money. If I don't have the money for something, and I run the risk of putting something on my credit card, and I know that that's going to put me behind, then sometimes I just have to sit things out because it just doesn't make sense from an accounting perspective through my mission statement. In presenting, I think of that in public presentation. A lot of folks on this call are looking from an artistic perspective, and so you're in front of a public audience and finding an authentic way to be able to express yourself, an authentic way to be able to share certain aspects of your life publicly and other aspects of your life to be very private. And how do you make those decisions of what's going to make it on social media or not? In executing, in actually putting in the work. Obviously, discipline is a big part of that, but enthusiasm and vulnerability are also a very important part of executing, because in executing something without being mindful of vulnerability, I might not be thinking about how my actions are going to affect somebody else. Without enthusiasm, I might have the discipline and the vulnerability, but I'm not exciting other people to be rallied to my cause. And in evaluation, obviously, just because all of that is a way of revisiting all of these ideas about why we want to be educated further in this field, or why our thoughts are spent more in this space. In brainstorming, in 50% of my brain is certainly about Washington D.C. area music news, and so if you want to talk to me about writing code, I have a lot harder time catching up, but my interest is there. But if you want to know why my brain is stuck in this space, it has a lot to do with my mission statements kind of, what's the word, manifesting themselves. I always preach the scientific process as a way of utilizing dev. We've learned it since the 3rd grade, I think, and it allows us to look at the world in the principles of dev, to be able to educate ourselves, to be able to develop a hypothesis, maybe to predict outcomes, maybe to some of the best scientific endeavors are to try to prove that something is wrong, and then you learn a lot of other things along the way. Sometimes the reports, the final observation, if you will, is not what you intended when you developed your hypothesis. And that is one of the things that can be fun about science, is we can learn a lot of answers to a lot of things we didn't necessarily know we started out on. In the space of say, marketing or advertising, which are places that I never really thought I'd spend in when I started my musical career, in spaces of social media where I never really expected we'd get beyond MySpace. That's where I was, and I didn't know that things were going to evolve any further than that. All right, so personal and business mission statements. My Lifetime Achievement Award is I would like to achieve my Lifetime Achievement Award in sustainable creative careers. I've thought about this long and hard. Every time I try to write down something like music, it falls flat. Every time I try to write something like media, which encompasses a lot more than music, falls flat. What I want is not just to be an educator or just to be a mentor or just an author. I don't need that self-validation from those places. My personal mission has always been on trying to develop and sustain creative careers. For those that don't know my story, it all started out with the notion that I was going to be a dad, and saying, honey, you can be anything you want to be when you grow up, but not daddy, because daddy had to get a real job. And so I really just wanted to try to prove that it was possible to make a living through music. And that evolved over time. I was detecting over time that this was really the most important component of it. It wasn't my success in music. It wasn't that my visibility in the public space, it was simply the ability to sustain family through my creative career. And I don't belittle day jobs. Everybody in my band has a day job but me. But I think that it's super important that different, whether you're in a band or whether you're in a company, whether you're in an organization, that you're able to communicate what you need with one another. Because if some of you, for example, are trying to make a transition from a day job into a full-time creative endeavor, then there's going to be some struggle along the way as you try to figure out how to get the career side of that artistic endeavor into, financial solvency. Back to long-term creative contributions. I actually pulled this from partly from the Grammy website and partly from somebody else's website, but to me that made perfect sense, this merging of having made a creative contribution of outstanding artistic significance. And I think that that's true whether you're writing in code, whether you're writing a piece of poetry or telling a piece of music. I think that there's an artistic significance, that the work that we're doing today is supposed to propel us to do something more dynamic in the future, that pushes more of our comfort zones and develops more of who we are as an artist. And that journey is what, for example, fans are interested in engaging in, or customers. That journey has become really important today in presenting yourself publicly. My mission statement, I gotta move the thingies here. My personal mission is to respect patience, contentment, and perseverance while utilizing the 3 keys of discipline, enthusiasm, and vulnerability. Already it's a mouthful, but it's my mission statement, okay? I lead by example by defining and pursuing my own individual success in matters of family, business, and art. I strive for honest communication in all things, tempered with prudence. That's a fancy word. It means I'm tactful, maybe diplomatic, and sometimes I'd say nothing at all. I'm not overly critical of myself or others, but choose to exist within and exude happiness. Time is my most precious possession. I do not dwell on the past or fear the future. I live purposefully in the present, to understand everything in context, to see myself for who and what I am, and to thrive therein. So part of the reason why all of that is really important to me, patience being, sure, it's a virtue, but it is a very tough practice. And there is no cookie cutter solution for the direction that you want to go. There is no specific roadmap to say this is how long it should take you. You might have examples, but there's certainly a lot of public stories, especially today, where people are successful, but we don't recognize the entire team of people behind them to be able to see how the sausage is made. There's for example, on this call, I have Cynthia, who's a talented musician and is extremely helpful as the editor of Alchemical Records magazine. It is impossible for us to have the level of growth that we've had without her. It would be impossible for me to have the time even to focus on giving this presentation without the work that she puts in, as well as Mara, who loves being on social media. I do not. So I love that she loves being on social media. And I appreciate the way that with that enthusiasm, she's able to engage with people in a very personal, in a personal way. And her desire to try to find ways of lifting up and elevating people, as well as the enthusiasm she has in general, makes it possible for me to trust that the conversations that are happening on social media are a reflection of the kinds of values that I would have as part of my mission statement, my personal mission statement, as well as my business mission statement, which isn't nearly as evolved for a number of reasons. One of which being that I think that it's very important in an organization, a business, some sort of community endeavor, that the mission statement should continue to be developed with the team of people that you're with. If I were to bring somebody on board for the team and they couldn't agree with the mission statement that I'd put together or that evolved into the mission statement that the rest of our team had put together, then maybe this isn't the right organization for you. And then, while I think the values, again, the principles that we're based on, or our mission of highlighting um, the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, this has evolved based on our understanding of our needs as well as the needs of the Washington, D.C. area. So that is what prompted us to bring in a focus toward the international community, was the fact that Washington, D.C. as a region from a musical creative aspect is not able to thrive if it tries to pretend like it's an island. And I think that that is true of us individually as well. Destination and duration. I really enjoy looking at travel sites as a way of thinking about planning. So forgive me for these, you know, two terms that are very much from a travel, like a travel planning component. But if you think about, let's say we wanted to visit Europe together, all of us on this call, on Peter's private jet, then, which he doesn't have, to my knowledge, then I think that we'd want to know where in Europe we would want to go and how long we might stay in each city and what sites we would see while we were there. And then we'd have to understand that our time in Europe would probably come to an end. And this is the way that I would think about other kinds of smaller goals that are between here and where you imagine your Lifetime Achievement Award to be. Because if you want to be on the Tonight Show, that is fantastic. I would love to be on the Tonight Show. However, that would be a single moment in time and it would be a fantastic experience, but then it would end. The duration of that would be 3.5 minutes, maybe some extra YouTube hits, and the rest of the world would move on about their business. So it would be a fun destination, but I can't stay there forever. I can't exist inside of that one single moment. I have to develop a career of work toward my Lifetime Achievement Award. So if I had a resource to be able to share your way, so that you could kind of continue to develop your own personal mission statement once we're through with our call, I would highly recommend that you check out How to Develop Your Personal Mission Statement by Stephen R. Covey, and a number of other books from the Franklin Covey Publishing. I made the slide. I might as well show it. So aside from the remaining time that we have, where I'd really love to kind of talk a little bit about developing your Lifetime Achievement Award, developing your personal mission statement, and in your business creative mission statement. These are my most common endeavors, and probably the email is the best way to reach me, but occasionally I'm on Instagram, and there you have it. So the goal is to try to use this class as a way of developing your mission statement. And I know that I've shared maybe my example, and some of you have parts of your own or have things. So I want to visit a little bit. I have Tim's input about growing the fan base and the trajectory control. So I'll just comment on that briefly to say that that means that individually, as part of the band's mission statement, should be a contribution from everyone. And if developing that fan base, it's why does Neurofarm want to develop that fan base? What is it going to do with it when it has it? If it develops the fan base, is that the band's Lifetime Achievement Award? Is the band's Lifetime Achievement Award for for a specific genre? Is it because you become authorities in your field as composers and songwriters? So I know that it's a bit of a nut to crack because you have all these individuals. But for example, if somebody wants to be a famous drummer, then you have to have somebody in the band who's also a drummer in other projects, who is putting out articles about the rudiments of drumming, about how these are how you play Neurofarm songs. And that has to become part of their personal mission statement, or if that is their personal mission statement, rather, then the band has to be able to integrate its mission statement about the idea of elevating its individual membership to be in these kinds of spaces. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. So, just to give you a little background, so Tim was saying that because today we got together as we were setting up for rehearsal. We were actually discussing where do we want to go from here. Daniel, you know this, but the rest of the group probably doesn't. But we've been, doing fairly well in the DC scene, and people know us in the goth scene. So I feel like in DC we've made our mark, but at this point, because our album has gotten really good reviews, and we're at this point where, so for example, the other day, this goth magazine from another country just randomly reached out to us and wanted to do an interview. And then there are these random people on Spotify discovering us. So all of a sudden we're like, hey, maybe we have international appeal, right? Because these things are happening. So we're, also in the process of figuring out where we are, and how far we want to go. So the next couple of shows we've booked are all with national touring bands. Like there's this other band that has 10,000 followers, for example, just reached out to us and said that we were recommended and if we could hop on the bill. So, things like that are happening. So we are just actually beginning to develop our mission statement because, yeah, so uh, I'm not being super cohesive right now, but you probably get what I mean, right? Like we're in this exploratory phase, trying to
Sure.
figure out, how far we can go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, those victories that you're celebrating, those are victories for sure, and destinations with a duration. And I think they're great places to exist in. But I think that understanding like, hey, this is exciting, this is fun, we're getting some recognition, we have some people reaching out to us, which is always a gift, let me tell you. And but then what? Like
Right.
through these actions, our long-term goal is what? If we were to win a lifetime achievement award for music from the Recording Academy, why? Why is that important for us to be recognized for our music, and why do we need fans to recognize us for our music, and kind of what do we want um, to do with our audience once we have them would be a good question. In the case of maybe uh, Will, if you're doing things that are more of a technical nature, I don't claim to completely understand all of it, but I think about it in terms of that the coding should affect people, that the impact should have someone, just like a new album should impact someone.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, code just doesn't exist for itself as an island. It does affect people's lives for better or worse.
So do you mind if I ask, like, is there something specific that you're looking to make, or can you tell us maybe what parts of your mission statement you already have bits and pieces for?
Yeah, well, right now I'm really at the point of trying to piece that together in my head. That
Sure.
makes sense.
I might think about it in terms of, if you make some code and it has uh, one ability to solve a problem, is that the only problem that you're looking to solve through your company or the products that your company is developing? In it might be akin to genre for the musicians, like being well known for being inside of a specific genre, or being known for songwriting or composing. uh, and there can also be things like being more in, say, theater than in um, like a musical performance component, or like music for TV and film being separate from things that we might solve in the theater industry. So that would be probably my best recommendation, is to think about, you're developing a mission statement, And is that one product, for example, that you might develop with your code, is that going to be the primary objective of the organization or the company that you develop through it?
Yeah, and you do bring up a good point, even with music and other creative avenues, dealing with technology, information technology systems, code, whatnot. It's very, very broad. It does a lot of things, and even in some respects, there is some overlap with the creative side as well.
Certainly today, where programming could result in the development of some sort of AI-based, uh, you know, musical track or a novel or NFTs, which I think all of these things are happening where programming can result in a lot of these spaces, and we're starting to question whether we're going to feel an emotive experience as a result of the things that AI is creating.
Yeah, it might get there eventually, but even things like AIs, there's still somebody behind it, building it, designing it.
Absolutely. It takes a human still, thank goodness. Um, let's see. I've picked on Rebecca and Will already. Cynthia, I got some of your notes on how to build an entire career. I know I haven't completely built an entire career here. Let's see. You have share 2 or 3 sound bites. Working mission statement. I would love to hear everybody's partial mission statements. I don't want to make anybody. I don't want to make anybody share them if they're not feeling up for it. But I'd love to hear everybody's mission statements.
I don't have I was saying mine's kind of working because
Uh-huh.
I feel like I've been thinking more everyone about like my why statement, which I feel like is the start of a mission statement. It's kind of not what you're doing, it's why you do it, the heart of it. So I feel like the word inspire will be somewhere in mine. And then I think like yours, Daniel, finding a way to tie um, like I was thinking of the word words because that kind of covers music, it covers creative writing, kind of like you, both of those intersecting. So I think I was challenged recently to do like a really short mission statement, like words, a couple of words. So I had to inspire others through words. That's still working, but I think even as I tease that out, inspire will be somewhere in there. Um, Kind of the authenticity that we bring, always wanting to uplift, whether it's through what I'm writing or through my music. So I think those are some components that will appear in my final mission statement.
Putting a few keywords is certainly a fact. I like a thesaurus as my best friend, maybe a little more than a dictionary. Um, but that's that's why when I say like with respect to patience, because it's like I know I'm not going to be patient all the time, but I respect that that's kind of the mindset that I should have is to be patient, to be content. I'm not always going to be content, but I respect that that is certainly the way to continue to find joy in maintaining uh, the push and pull of different things, and life is beautiful that there's so many opportunities to push and pull, um, but it is today probably more or easier than ever to become distracted, to get derailed or sidetracked because of something shiny. And perseverance, because I didn't want to lose sight of the fact that there is a struggle involved, that it is a decision that I make every day. Some people might feel differently. I have had some relationships that haven't been very successful from the standpoint of marriage, but I think of love as being a decision that you must make every single day when you wake up, that you're going to pursue the avenues that love takes you in order to be able to grow and maintain that relationship. And and there's certainly still perseverance involved, even coming with an approach of love. Um, in leading by example being a part of my mission statement, it's not enough for me to like try to put a class together and say, hey, this is how everybody else should do stuff. I have to have had some sort of credibility, and I've walked myself through this many times because I've always wanted to be a help. But when I look at, say, the way that others might perceive what success is, guess what? Like, I don't have those check boxes. Never worked with a national, like a nationally uh, respected recording producer, engineer, for my own music. Or I've, in terms of, say, even Alchemical Records, it's like our audience is smaller than Billboard magazine. Does that make it less successful? Yes, if growing readership is the only definition, the only metric that we're running for success. Matters of family, business, and art, using these words as a way of saying it's like my family is super important to me. They're the reason why I'm actually pursuing business at all, because otherwise I could just be an artist and it wouldn't matter, where I was sleeping or what I was eating. I would just produce my art. But the fact that I need to find a financially solvent way of, producing that art and having that be a reflection on my children to be able to see that example is intrinsic to what I do. Um, let's see. um Not dwelling on the past or the future, like this becomes like a mantra. So the personal mission statement to me becomes something that I want to wake up and say every day. Maybe I read it every day, and it is a grounding method. It's so maybe think about that when you're writing it. You're probably not going to do what I'm doing and share it with everybody, in its completely written form. I definitely think that it is easy to spend too much time thinking about what we could have accomplished or should have accomplished, or spending too much time with the anxiety of what will we accomplish. And so the mission statement is supposed to be a way for us to be able to stay grounded and to stay focused on the journey toward that lifetime achievement award. Unconventional storytelling through music. Yes, absolutely. That's fantastic. Picking up moments in the life and sharing its joy and weirdness. Um, the ending of my mission statement is to understand everything in context, to see myself for who and what I am, and to thrive therein. There was certainly that for me was my way of stating authenticity. It's also a way of accepting the fact that I'm uh, not, I'm a work in progress. So acknowledging that I'm a work in progress, acknowledging that I am going to do things that I can look back on and regret. I will do things that I look back on and that I will wish that I had done better. And to acknowledge those things and to be able to go ahead and just acknowledge them, and still find a way to thrive, to continue to, like, not just to live or not just to exist. I'm very cautious in my own wording to just be like, I don't just want to live, right? I want to thrive. So I wanted to make sure that that was how I ended that together. Awesome. I appreciate that. So I will say then that it's not necessarily like the chapter or not the chapter to be able to say that this is how I sustained a career, but these are the foundations for, without even like realizing it, because at the time that, like, that's what I'm hoping to kind of reflect, is that if there had been somebody that I could kind of look up to that was keeping it real with me when I was a teenager. I wanted to be a musician when I was 14. And so I think if somebody had come to me and said, "Hey, look, the the idea of getting signed to a major label, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's only one avenue that you can go." That if somebody had told me, if you wanted to gain, more credits as a songwriter, you could start building up a repertoire of songs, or you could start going towards things like publishing or licensing. Somebody could have said, "Hey, just over the next from the ages of 15 to 18, hey, just write a bunch of stuff and create some demos, and when you're 18, pitch them to labels," or whatever the case might be. Or to look at this perspective, because there was only the starving artist. There was either signed to a major label or being a starving artist, and those were the only two business models when I got going. So the notion of putting in hard work and dedication and making the sale, getting the booking, selling the merchandise, uh, that kind of stuff happened as a result of learning how to focus on things like income generation, especially because as a single dad at the time, that was necessary for me to be very financially motivated. And over the course of individual years of the career, there's been an income range of somewhere between $25,000 and $60,000 probably per year, depending on what my needs were. But it gave me the flexibility to also work with my wife now, to be able to say, you've got the steady 9 to 5 now, and so then that's not necessary for me to be in the same kind of rigorous mindset of working. I can spend more time here cooking and cleaning and playing with the baby, and I promise you that I do, because at this point in our lives, it provides us with this opportunity for her to be able to focus more on her personal endeavors, rather than, say, my live performance musical endeavors. And that has completely changed, gone back and forth depending on how old the kids are, depending on which jobs each of us have, or how many or with COVID happening and like not being able to go out and perform for a year and a half. It changed. You have to try to shift. You can't just continue to say, okay, well, I'm really only good at booking these live shows, and so that's the only way that I can succeed. um, so being adaptable is going to be a big part of moving forward, and for me, these are the ways that I have thought about trying to share and create a foundation so you can go out and do the same, whatever it is. And I hope that it will help you with the lifetime achievement award component, because the rest of it we can definitely develop over time. We can pick and choose parts of our mission statement, and we might look at it next week and say, I think this is another area that I need improvement on. Or if you're looking at it every morning and you're trying to repeat it to yourself like a mantra, it probably wouldn't take very long to clean it up, because you're kind of revisiting that notion every day. I have kept you as long as I wanted to keep you for the class. Uh, if there are any questions, I would love to hear them. If you have any concerns, or in just acknowledging that the class is over and how can I improve this experience for future classes, whether I repeat this class or for our next class, which is, if all goes according to plan, the next class that I'm hosting is going to try to talk about developing your plan. And most of that is going to be around concepts of time and financial management. It's definitely a big part of the growth of a business. It has to make money in order to be a business. Even a nonprofit has to make money in order to continue to exist as a nonprofit. So the finances are there, and also the time management in terms of prioritizing and in creating that schedule in accordance to this purpose-driven component.